Hey guys, I am making this video. My cat's in the chair next to me. Have you seen my cat in high definition? Here she is. In full. Gonna say something? Hey friends. So I tweeted earlier that I would bet that a year from today, I would have more YouTube subscribers than Twitter followers. Now, for context, I have 1.6 thousand YouTube subscribers and I have 24.4 thousand Twitter followers, which is about 15 times more Twitter followers than YouTube subscribers. And so my Twitter subscribers does increase at a rate of about, I would say, maybe 800 a month at this point. And my YouTube subscribers has been growing something like 400-ish a month the past couple of months. And I believe that the rate of change, like the rate of change on YouTube is higher than Twitter. There are a bunch of reasons why I believe this, and one of it is just, well, I from my study of how YouTube channels grow and just my assessment of the kind of audiences that develop. It just seems to me that you can grow a YouTube channel much faster than a Twitter account, and I want to test that hypothesis. And someone came along and was like, "Oh yeah, I'll take that bet for $100." I'm like, "Okay, I'll do it." And so I have bet somebody $100 that I will gain about 24,000 Twitter followers, YouTube subscribers in a year, which now I have to do the math, right? And it's funny to think about because again, how, like, so I'm making a bet, but how strongly do I feel about it? I'm very confident I'll definitely cross 10,000. I'm moderately confident I'll cross 20,000, but I don't know how long it will take. Again, I've never grown a YouTube account myself. I've only seen other YouTube accounts growing, and I have, some degree of faith that's derived from my belief about, no, some degree of faith based on my experience of how people relate to my content, both just talking to people in real life and in DM conversations and seeing how the comment section has been so far. I do believe that, you could probably do the math, and again, all of the math is projection, so it's, even if you do the math in really granular detail, it could still be wrong. But if you analyze the engagement and the growth of engagement from my first video to my 70th video, I'm pretty confident that it will keep growing. And then there's the unknown wins, right? Where I don't yet know what, like, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, my most popular YouTube videos will be. It will likely be something that I don't expect. And really, the thing that I should do if I want to win this bet is to make as many videos as possible. So here I am. I'm going to try and make a video every single day, if possible. And it's interesting to think about because, it's not about the money. Like, it's not that. And if think about it this way, if I lose $100 or I spend $100 to get 15,000 YouTube subscribers, let's say, so it's shy of my goal, but still pretty substantial, that would be money well spent, right? But I guess what I really want to do, what I really care about, the reason I felt fired up enough to sit down with my camera and my mic and start making a video, which I wasn't feeling, before I did that tweet and had that response, is that I want to demonstrate that my predictions have value and that my bets have value, particularly when I'm making claims about my own abilities. And so I'm reminded of what it was like when I was working in marketing at my last job, where I was a content guy. So my job was to write blog posts, and well, my job was to get more traffic, which is so again, in an organization, in a company, in a startup software company, whatever, the ultimate milestone, the ultimate kind of metric that the company kind of lives and, I wouldn't say lives and dies by, but like the dominant metric that outsiders care about, investors care about, that kind of thing, is revenue or profit, right? And um, anything you can do to reliably increase revenue is valuable. And the thing is, you don't always know, you don't have like a super precise understanding of what exactly will increase revenue. You don't know in advance, who are all of the customers who will give you money. But you can, from experience and from some thinking and whatnot, you can figure out that there's some conversion rate at which, when you ask people to buy your stuff, like, if you ask 100 people, somebody will say yes, right? And so you scale that, and like, if you ask 1,000 people, would it be 10 times the number of people that you asked the first time? Maybe yes. And but it's not so linear, right? Because there's like compounding effects, where if someone has heard that several of his friends are using a product, they might be likelier to use that product. So things like that. There's a lot of things that goes into it. It's a very, very interesting intellectual challenge to try and understand how to sell something at scale, a product that solves a problem for people. And so that was my understanding and thinking of what it's like to do marketing for a software company. And I'm no longer doing marketing for a software company, but I have a marketer's mindset, right? And I used to play in a band, and I was like, how do you get more people to come to your shows? How many people do you have to talk to? How can you improve your songwriting so that more people are interested in your music? There's all these variables that you can tinker with to make for better outcomes, right? And one of the outcomes I would like to have is, I would like to have a bigger YouTube channel. I don't necessarily want to be a massive celebrity. I don't necessarily want growth for growth's sake. I want to earn the audience, right? And I want a smart audience. I think it's possible to. There are things you can do where you compromise. If you want to grow as fast as possible, and you don't care what kind of content you put out, then you can just put out content that panders to a very low quality audience that just wants low quality content that happens to be in whatever it is that's interesting to them. And I don't want to do that, but at the same time, I do want to grow. So there are trade-offs to be made. And there's certain things like, it's true that if you publish every day, that's better than if you don't publish every day. And I mean, again, we can get into the specifics, and there's always exceptions and nuance and whatnot, but it's interesting that making $100 bet with somebody that some outcome is going to happen, that I can't say it's already happened. I can't guarantee that it will happen, but I'm betting that it will happen because I'm going to try and make it happen. And it's nice to have this kind of external challenge, right? Rather than just an internal curiosity. Because I would like to know if I can grow my YouTube channel really quickly, and again, when I say quickly, I mean holding quality of content constant, right? So I'm not going to compromise on my editorial standards. I'm not going to do or say shit that I wouldn't normally do. I'm not going to. Well, even that is something that you can kind of there's a range of adjustment involved, and anytime you grow and develop, you will adjust. Your form gets better in some way, right? So, and better by your own definition. And I've noticed that I've made a bunch of videos that are just me kind of rambling about a topic, and that's fine, and I'm going to continue doing that indefinitely. But I also am pretty confident that there is a class of video that I haven't made yet that involves how to do something, right? How to, I don't know, I'll go through my blog and look for content that I feel is useful to people, and repurpose and reproduce that. But when you're going to make a claim, right? So in the title says how to do X, then there's a higher expectation from the audience member and from passers-by, right? So now when I'm just rambling in my videos, the expectation from people is, oh, I'm going to watch a video about Visa rambling about something. I like Visa, I think it's entertaining, whatever, I just want to pass time, that kind of, it's a certain class of expectations. if I start making videos that's like how to do X, you know, how to index your notebooks, whatever, right? Whatever is the thing that I'm thinking about, then there is now a promise that I have to deliver on, which requires a higher level, a higher threshold of, it's harder to do. I can't just improvise my way into answering that question. I have to actually answer that question. So I have to do some research. I have to kind of structure out my content. I probably have to edit the video and cut it and so on. And I do want to do that. And I do believe that that will help me reach a broader audience, which I am pretty excited about, looking forward to doing. A part of it is that I want to get to the point where I am financially comfortable. You know, so right now I sell ebooks and I do consulting work, right? And I would like to do less consulting work. I just want to be more ambitious, I guess, and have a broader impact, because I do know from past experience. I've been working on this stuff internally for like 20 years, right? I've been journaling and reading and writing and talking to people, and I know my stuff. I know what's good. I just haven't. So in a video format, I haven't workshopped my video methods. So all of these videos that I'm doing is just me practicing getting used to the sound of my voice, practicing seeing myself on camera, right? And it's just getting familiar with these things, and then I'll start being more ambitious and being more assertive even, right? I'm choosing not to be too assertive right now because, again, I'm just figuring this stuff out, right? And I wanted to make the video to talk about making bets, making promises, being a man of your word, right? Or woman of your word, person of your word, right? Having integrity in a sense, which brings me to just a broader class of conversation that I've had with people about just saying things, right? Asserting that things are going to happen or not happen, or like trying to predict what's going to happen. And you know, it's interesting. I've had conversations with people who say that's arrogant. You know, that's like in like 2013, 2010 maybe, when I had about 200 Twitter followers, I tweeted, I just want 10,000 Twitter followers for being a pretty princess. You know, is that too much to ask? And you know, it was kind of a joke tweet, but I do remember thinking, even when I was, you know, a relative nobody on the broader internet, I remember thinking, the content that I make is just as good, if not better, than people with much larger audiences than me. So at the very least, I know that, and I'm basing this on my own taste and based on the feedback I get from other people, I know that my writing and my speaking, right, is good enough to deserve a large audience. Well, deserve is a complicated idea, but like it's on par. If I were inserted in a roster of speakers between people with much larger audiences than me, I'm pretty confident that I could pull it off. I could convince people that I'm just as good as the rest of them, right? So what's the difference? The difference is audience building, which is a separate skill set entirely, you know. And I mean, there's some connections, but building your audience is something that takes work, and it's you can simplify it to win over one person at a time, which is what I did on Twitter, for example. Like I would literally talk to people. I would reply to people's tweets, people who I was convinced, when I look at them, I read their profiles, I see their tweets, I'm like, that person would appreciate my point of view because of whatever I know. And I would be friendly and kind, and I would do whatever felt natural and useful, and they would follow me back. And over time, this would compound, and I would continue making whatever content that I felt was good, and that snowballs into 10,000, now 20,000, 24,000, 25,000 followers. And you know, once you get from like 0 to 1,000, and from like 1,000 to 10,000, I think going from 10,000 to 100,000, it's almost inevitable, as long as you keep doing what you're doing and you don't quit, you don't burn out, you don't go crazy, which are things that happen to people, because you know, there's a lot of feedback that you get. There's a lot of, you know, you get haters, right? And there are all these things that happen when you cross certain thresholds of public exposure, right? And so you don't want to be too exposed. You want to, past certain thresholds, you want to sit down and reevaluate why you are doing what you're doing, what your goals really are, who you really want to be reaching, what you really want to be saying, what conversations you want to be having, what outcomes you want to achieve. And yeah, so you know, I have some pretty clear ideas, pretty strong ideas about the sort of things that I want to talk about and the kind of audience that I want to build. And but it's an ongoing thing, and it's a very baby steps, one video a day, kind of process, and it's a slog. But I look forward to doing it, because again, each time I do one of these things, I feel like I have a slightly better understanding of how the world works, and there's something reassuring about having an understanding of social reality. And there's always a chance that everything is still wrong, and like you're operating in a certain bubble or whatever. Like yeah, I've priced that into my thinking. But yeah, and I guess I just wanted to talk about how I'm amused. I'm amused by how $100 bet with somebody is influencing my behavior in a way that I want, right? And that I would have said that I would have wanted it. Like if you asked me a week ago, like, hey, do you want to be making videos more often? I'd be like, yeah, sounds nice. But it takes a bet with someone, external reality, and it's not the money. It's now once you have a bet, you have an event, right? You have a show that's going on, right? A contest, and there's something I'm feeling these feelings that are very, I'm kind of exaggerating it for effect and for fun, right? But it's like I'm thinking of like old school, like in a tavern in some knights, like Game of Thrones kind of environment, like some fantasy environment where somebody throws down a gauntlet at somebody else, and then they have a contest, and then they like a battle of wits or whatever it is. And the thing about a contest is like games in finite and infinite games, right? It's the point. It's nice to win, but the point really is to play beautifully. That's what I really want to do, right? And if you play beautifully, even if you lose, you win the respect and admiration of people who are watching, and you win the right to play again, right? So even if at the end of my best efforts I don't quite reach the target, I do believe it's nice to demonstrate what it is like to make a serious effort, right? And yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. What else? I want to end this video at 20 minutes. 3 more minutes. Make bets, make claims. Oh yeah, I guess I just wanted to talk about how I did make grandiose claims as a teenager, as a child, right? I would say things that were very bombastic and over the top. And I once wrote a blog post that titled "How to Save Singapore," which was terrible, and my comment section ripped me apart for it. Even my own friends were like, "This is terrible writing, and it's full of assumptions and presumptions and whatever." And they were right, and it hurt my feelings a little bit, but I realized that yeah, they're right. Why am I talking like this? And I realized it's because I have very strong feelings. Like I badly wanted my country to be better, right? And I was so full of myself and my feelings that I didn't stop to think about what other people thought, right? I didn't ask other people for their opinions and all that. But at the same time, publishing something in public, I think, is a way of inviting the world to engage with you, even though it might not be exactly the kind of engagement that you want or you ask for, but it is inviting the world to you in a sense. And I do enjoy that in a sense. And I was determined to integrate whatever criticisms I got into my work. And the thing, I still love my country. I still love writing. I still love the public sphere, right? The possibility of humans convening with other humans to share knowledge and thoughts and ideas and opinions. I still love that stuff. And so what I learned from being bombastic in wanting to share is that I realized, oh, okay, I got to be more measured about my statements, right? Because if you're saying something that sounds, it's true to how you feel. You have intense feelings, and so you use intense words. But then people receive those intense words as, just noise and bluster and arrogance, right? Which is true, right? There is an arrogance to just. It's the same thing as a child banging pots and pans, right? The child doesn't yet appreciate how annoying that activity is to others, and they have not yet learned to care for others. But that's what growing up is, right? You learn how other people are and to care for them. And yeah, so I have found that some people, the lesson they take away from a bad experience like that, or it's, I don't call it a bad experience, from a kind of confrontational experience like that is they're like, oh, what I did was bad, I shouldn't do it again. But like, for me, I'm like, okay, how I did that was bad. I got to change my approach, right? And I have been changing my approach and modifying and tinkering with my approach over and over again for years. And yeah, eventually people start saying, oh, this guy actually sounds smart. This guy actually has useful things to say. You know, he's actually a valuable member of this community. He represents our ideas and perspectives well. He gives us a framework of context to operate in, to something to dream about, something to plan, something to work towards. And yeah, that's great. And I guess I'm trying to reflect on the power of words and the power of utterances, right? To say a thing will be done, right? And I did a thread fairly recently about how I have this fairly recent habit that's maybe about 2 or 3 years old, where I say out loud, I tweet usually, where I say out loud that I'm gonna do something. It might be, I'm gonna go through this list of movies and pull out the most interesting posters, right? And then I start posting tweets about those posters. And then someone once said something like, oh, Visa likes to announce what he's about to do and then do it. And he thought that was cool. And it's actually, for me, it's like an ADHD coping mechanism. And one of the things about ADHD for me is that you have no idea what's going on in your head, in the world around you. It's like just chaos. And kind of announcing what I'm going to do just before I do it and then doing it is my way of practicing making utterances that correspond with reality. And so it's like building trust in myself, right? And saying I'm going to clear my desk, and then I clear my desk immediately, right? So that it doesn't become I'm going to clear my desk someday and then it doesn't happen, and it doesn't ever happen, and then the value of that statement that you made at the beginning, it becomes flimsy and weak. Like now what is the value of your words if you say things that don't happen? Like if you make claims that aren't true or that don't correspond to reality. And I found that if you can reliably say things that you then make happen, then people like that. They appreciate that. There's something magical even, right? So like when I say magic, I mean so being able to predict the distant future, that's obviously like nobody's actually able to do that, and that's like Nostradamus kind of thing, and there's a mysticism associated with that, right? But even something like being able to say I'm going to run a marathon next year and doing it, like that's powerful, because a lot of people will say, every year people make New Year's resolutions that they don't keep, right? And if you choose to be a person who makes a resolution that you keep, you differentiate yourself from all the people who don't keep their resolutions. And a person who resolves to do something and does it, they become exceptional in the eyes of everyone else. And whether they're truly exceptional in some like divine sense, I'm not going to make any claims about. But like you can become an exceptional person by doing what you say you're going to do. And nobody told me this when I was a kid. My parents would say things like, you shouldn't lie because you're only cheating yourself. Technically that's the same. That describes the same phenomenon. You're cheating yourself of the opportunity to become an exceptional person. And do you want to be an exceptional person? It's fine if you don't. It's fine to want to be an ordinary person. But if you watch superhero movies and comics and you think, wow, I wish like that looks cool, that looks amazing, to have power to influence outcomes, to kind of not be pushed around by life, but to have strength and to use that strength to nourish yourself and others and to influence outcomes positively, then there is something exceptional about wanting to step into that power, to take responsibility. And that means being careful with your words, with what you say, and doing things such that historically, when people look at the history of your words, they're like, oh, whatever this person says happens, so I should listen to this person because whatever they say happens, right? And yeah, so I am increased. So can I promise, oh, for sure, I'm going to have 30,000 YouTube subscribers next year? I can't promise that for sure, but I can promise that I'm gonna work very hard to make it happen. And again, it's not so much about the vanity metric of the number of subscribers. It's about putting in the effort and being seen putting in the effort to demonstrate. I'm a kid. I was a kid with terrible ADHD, and I want to do this almost. This is my marathon, right? I'm running this marathon to demonstrate that an ADHD kid who was terrible in school can be a man of his word. Done.